Digitization, July 12, 1979. Now, particularly to Ruber, the following sentence: you do not have the responsibility to change the world for the better. That is, changing the world for the better is not your personal responsibility. You have a natural need to embrace your world, to act through it, with it, and upon it, to illuminate it with your own vision, in which case you automatically change it for the better. The original prerogative is the creative one, from which all benefits automatically flow. If you think that it is your personal responsibility alone to change the world, then you are always bound to feel a burdening sense of failure. The world is being changed through our work, but because that work is primarily a creative endeavor in the fullest, deepest meaning, how, of the word creative. When you hold the attitude I have mentioned, however, you begin to insist upon immediate creative results in the way that the shoemaker does, again and again. We are not making shoes. The scientist Rob noted. Tracy's said later had some good results in crystallizing your attitudes in Ruber's poetry and in passages for his book. It also made him think, however, that he was not changing the world in any way that mattered in any important degree, that those in authority did not even read them, and that even my latest work, Rob noted, Mass Reality, said would make no inroads. He did not want book dictation on the one hand, for that reason. On the other hand, of course, he did. We will, of course, finish our book in our usual style. I do want to emphasize, however, the existence of people like the young man who came today. You are speaking to the younger generations strongly, and they are the people who will make up the fabric of the so-called official establishments in the future, and they will come to those establishments with far different values than those people now ruling. Period. Rob noted. Seth referred to Greg, a young man who arrived here yesterday afternoon in a taxi and carrying a bag of 12 long-standing carnations of 4 colors. They said, remember to keep open-minded about individual scientists. It is against the official views of science as a field that you hold great variance. Ross said, I didn't catch Seth's last word. Hold great? They said, variance. Disagreement. You pick the word. It is fairly easy to recognize the ways in which organized religion discouraged vigorous intellectual speculation. It is more difficult, perhaps, to see that science fears the unofficially directed intellect quite as much as it does the unofficially directed intuitions. In schools, for example, there are courses in the criticism of literature, art criticism, and so forth. The arts are supposed to be not real. It is quite safe, therefore, to criticize them in that regard, to see how a story or a painting is constructed, or more importantly, to critically analyze the structure of ideas, things, or beliefs that appear behind, say, the point or the word of fiction. When children are taught science, there is no criticism allowed. They are told this is how things are. Science's reasons are given as the only true statements of reality, with which no student is expected to quarrel. Any strong intellectual explorations of counter-versions of reality have appeared in science fiction, for example. Here, scientists, many being science fiction buffs, can safely channel their own intellectual questioning into a safe form. They can say this is after all merely imaginative and not to be taken seriously. This is the reason why some scientists who either write or read science fiction are the most incensed over any suggestion that some such ideas represent a quite valid alternate conception of reality. In a fashion, at least in your time, science has as much to fear from the free intellect as religion does, and any strong combination of intellectual and intuitional abilities is not tailor-made to bring you great friends from either category. Science has unfortunately bound up the minds of its own, even most original thinkers, for they dare not stray from certain scientific principles. All energy contains consciousness. That one sentence is basically scientific heresy, and in many circles it is religious heresy as well. A recognition of that simple statement will indeed change your world. All books are read also more often than it seems, for they are borrowed from others and from libraries by people who would not buy them in a store, not for financial reasons necessarily. The latter in any case made him think in terms of responsibility again, but this session should set him right. He is doing well physically. The relaxation episodes will continue again. When he realizes he does not have to be changing the world in each moment, have he imagined shrugging his shoulders? Back leg muscles are indeed lengthening, as are the arms. Eye mobility is increasing. The relaxation periods aid in all respects. He does still need you to remind him of the safety of relaxation now and then. Give us a moment. With some sense of freedom and play, both of you can combine high qualities of intuitional and intellectual abilities so that they sometimes merge into a higher mind. Some of this is difficult to explain, but as the world of appearances presents its own evidence on the level of sense, so your inner reality presents as strong evidence of its reality, but that evidence remains largely invisible, because you have not trained yourself sufficiently to be alert to those manifestations. You do have a telepathic interplay between you, of course. That escapes your notice. There are connections in the same manner between you and your animals and the trees in your yard. You can at least keep these facts in your minds. It is a matter of organization and of focus. When you think of framework 2, do so playfully. Remember that its processes are creative. I'm not going to go into Rupert's Carson dream, since he interpreted it properly himself. The star in the medical theater is the absent one, and that applied to his personal situation. The connection he did not get had to do with the television commercials on the Carson show. The pressure applied by the medical profession, telling you not to trust the body, and the man, Doc, who is the master of ceremonies in a big show, signifying nothing as per your joint overall interpretation of the show in particular. Do you have other questions? Ross said, I guess not. Last night I was going to ask how Volume 2 is doing in sales. They said, very well. I bid you a fond good evening. Ross said, thank you. Good night.